Hi, this is Ron Nutter, author of the Are You Disaster Ready series, and this particular live video I had planned on not doing till this coming weekend, but in light of what's going on with the folks in Houston, my heart goes out to them, and this is a very good example of some things that we all need to be doing to be prepared, and probably one of the most important things, because we use it every day and we take it for granted, is water. There's a lot of different methods or suggestions out there for how much water you need to have on hand and how to figure it out. The most simple thing I can come up with, and this is kind of the prevailing opinion, is a gallon of water per day per person. So if you have a household of 3 people, for example, that's 3 gallons a day times 3 days is 9 gallons. So that's, you can kind of meter out how you use it. Would you want to drink the whole gallon in the morning? No, but you probably want to do it a little bit throughout the day, not all at once, but just kind of as you feel a little bit of a thirst and go on. Now, there are several things that you need to consider when storing water. You'd want it in a cool, dry place. There are a variety of options that you can use to store water. One of the cheapest and most readily available is the good old-fashioned milk jug. Whether it's the squarish one that you get at Costco or some of the membership warehouses to the conventional style jug that you'll see in the grocery store, all of them are options. There's some very good directions out there, and I'm not going to rehash a lot of this, but you will need to take some precautions. Don't just throw out the rest of the milk and pour water in. You'll want to clean out the jug, give it a little bit of a soap treatment to get everything out of there, get that thoroughly rinsed out, and then there will be just the smallest amount of bleach, and there's different schools of thought as to how much that you should use, and I'm not going to debate the different percentages, but label that it is each jug that it is drinkable water, and most importantly, label the date. Because everything that I've read is that it's good for about 6 months from the day you do it. Now, at that point, if you're going to drink it, obviously you need to replenish the water and go to something a little bit fresher. Now, there is another use for it that you don't necessarily have to throw it out right away. If it is aging out and it looks like there's a situation arising that you will want to have it available for, you can keep the older water at hand, because what a lot of research I've done doesn't always point out is when you've lost power, depending on the nature of the power outage and how widespread it is, the water pumps may not be able to feed pressure to you, or at least enough to make any difference. So that old water is going to have another very useful life to it. There's no reason why you probably couldn't wash your hands with it, but more importantly, you're going to need it to flush the toilets, because without sufficient water pressure, or any water pressure at all, guess what? Water's got to come from somewhere. So you don't always have to throw it out, but be very careful if you are doing this as a long-term option, to make sure that you label the jugs and a date. And if you don't have an immediate use for the water, you could go water the flowers or just throw it out on the yard, so it doesn't have to be poured down the drain. But there are ways it can be used, and this is something that is very important to think about. And it's one of the first things you can do, and it's one of the easiest things that you can do. Now, obviously, if you have a larger family, well, you can start to have a very large collection of milk jugs, and there's nothing wrong with it as long as you have the space for it. There are The commercial term is bladders. You can get larger vessels that will store more than a few gallons. Now, when you start doing it that kind of approach, obviously you're going to need to check with some people who are really in the know to figure out how to keep that water safe. It may be better to get, instead of one big large, say 20 or 30 gallon bladder, to get maybe like a 5 gallon or maybe a 10 gallon, something that is easily workable and that you can change the water out, do the proper precautions with it to keep the water to where it is potable, where it is drinkable, and then when it isn't, make sure that you don't use it to drink with. Now, if you have run out of water or you've had to leave your home, now we're going to be in a little bit different situation. So there are some things that you might want to consider putting in your emergency kits. You also hear the term bug out bags. It's the same thing. It's just a matter of some of the terminology that you use. There are some very good options out there that can help you at least make questionable water safe. Obviously, if it's rancid and smelling, yeah, you probably shouldn't drink it. But if it's from a stream or the water looks okay, again, it's going to be common judgment, but there's some things you can do. And one of the first options that you can think about is something called Life Straw. And this is something, it comes like this. I got this from Amazon. And it's a very good self-contained item. You pull off the bottom here, you stick this down in whatever you're drinking from. The easier said than done. Then the cap comes off here, and you drink from this. Hence the term Life Straw. Now there's instructions in here, and let's take a look at those real quick, because this is a item that it may not have long-term use of it. It says it filters 1,000 liters of water over a lifetime. And they go into the technology of it, what it's good at doing, such as protecting you from contracting diarrhea, dysentery, and giardia. And it doesn't go into some real technical details, but for this kind of thing, this pretty much is going to tell you what you need to expect, and there's a good direction in here and shows you, nice little picture of what to do. Like, we can't figure this out from looking at it, but at least it gets you started. So this is something in an emergency. If you don't have a known source of water, you can't be too safe with this. So this is certainly an option. There's several different things that we can think about. And anything that you see me mention here, if you can either scan that QR code with your phone or go to the URL that you see on the bottom, that takes you to a sign-up form. And in return for you giving me your name and email address, I will send you a report that lists everything we're talking about here and links on Amazon where you can buy it. Now, I will tell you up front, I do make a small commission on that, but it doesn't change the price of what you're going to buy. It doesn't raise it, doesn't lower it, but it does help me with the costs of doing the videos and the equipment that I've been making. Is everything you see here, I've been buying. Now, another option to look about, and this is one that's also been very popular, is from a company called Sawyer. Now, this one's very interesting. This one, it's a whole kit that you get. And let's go ahead and open this up. This is a very compact water filter, and this is something that, we'll turn over so you can see the name on it. This can go in almost an everyday carry kit. But with the package that I got, they send you a bladder, a straw, so that you've got a very compact thing that can go in your everyday carry kit. And then most importantly is the syringe they send, and this is what you backflow water through the Sawyer mini filter to keep it cleaned out. Now, at some point, you will get to a time when it really can't be cleaned anymore, but at least you've got an option with keeping this running as long as you can hope. Now, they send a small bladder, and let's take the rubber band off it so you can see. Now, this happens to be a 16-ounce bladder. They have this also in other sizes. Well, I've got, here's a package of 3 that I went and got, and this is so you can buy them. They've got them in 1 liter, they've got them in gallon, but here's the thing that makes it a very attractive option, and let's get the Sawyer filter out here. If you look at this piece right here, what does it look like? Fits right on top of a 2 liter or even a 1 liter soda bottle. So you can use those to capture the water and then just screw this in, pop off the top, and you're now drinking filtered water. So that's something that makes this a very utilitarian option. And they've got a series of bladders for this different sizes. I've seen the 1 gallons. You can use the 2 liter bottles, and if you're an avid hiker, you can use the Camelback pouches that fit like in the back of your backpack, or some backpack bags have a place for the Camel reservoir or bladder to fit in. So that is something that's worthwhile. Now, something that everybody should have, and I do need to caution you on this one, is there are water purification tablets, but it says very clearly on here these are not for a continuous basis. They're short-term and emergency use only. So say you've misplaced your Sawyer water filter, or for some reason you don't have it with you, that this is an option to consider. Again, short-term use only. Do not sit there and use this for days on end. In fact, if you use it for part of one day, I'd be trying to find my Sawyer or another whatever water filtration system that you've got to make sure that you just, because this is apparently some of the chemicals they use in there. They're talking about it's not good to use on a prolonged basis. So those are just some options. I mean, certainly the gallon milk jug makes a lot of sense, and it's something you should do anyway, because that could be your first line of use when you're needing water and for some reason you don't have pressure at the house or wherever you happen to be. That is something good to have, because if you have to leave the house, you may want to take a few gallons with you, but don't spend time loading all that water, because there should be something along the way, and it's going to simply be a better use of your time to, as they say, get out of Dodge. Because I've been following the situation in Houston, and let's switch over now. I'm going to show you one of the latest graphics that I've been able to find. This shows all the road closures that are out there, or impaired traffic. So, I mean, if you can even get around, you may not be able to get out of your neighborhood. And pretty much the numbers I've been seeing right now are that between easily over 200,000 people are still without power, and we're just in day 2 of what the National Weather Service has forecasted as being at least a 4, maybe a 5-day event. I mean, bridges were already starting to, I saw one video this morning, bridges was already starting to buckle. Roadways are simply, they're going to get weakened somewhere, because you've got all this water and it's got to go somewhere. And I've lived in Texas, folks, and a lot of it is very flat, so the water has nowhere to go. It's just going to start accumulating. So having little things like this, whether it be something like the Life Straw or the Sawyer mini filter, and this is what I mean. As you see, I've got both of these. I always like to have options. That comes from my having spent several years as a volunteer responder with emergency management. Is I always have a backup plan, and depending on the nature of things, sometimes my backup plans have backup plans. So that's, it's not a bad thing to have more than one option, because some of the others in your family may not be as prepared as you are, or something may have happened and they may not have theirs with them. But this is where part of your normal process, especially as you go into certain times of the year when it is tornado or hurricane season, when it is heavy rains. I mean, here in the Midwest, we have had record rains for over a month. Just the month of August, we're several inches more, and I mean several inches is not even being, that's not even a nice word, but I mean I've been looking a few times for Noah and the Ark to pull up in front of my house when we've had so much rain, and it's when it's ponding up on your yard, it's ponding out in the street because it has nowhere to go. That should tell you when you've had that much rain. So this is something, this is one of these things that if you get started on, the Sawyer one I really like because it is compact. I mean, this is something, at a minimum, this could go in your everyday carry bag. It never hurts to have one of these things handy, and it doesn't take a lot of room. It's not going to be huge, and even the accompanying, let's get the straw back out here. So this is something, I mean, go just plug it right there as long as I don't mutilate it getting it on. So, I mean, you've got something that is, if it was one big piece, yeah, but when you've got it like that, I mean, that's fairly compact. You can't get much better than that. And this can be rolled up or shoved in the side of a carry bag. And then this little filter, I mean, this is a gem. And one of the things it talks about here, it's 0.1 micron absolute hollow filter. And basically, from what I've read about what the company did, if you've seen the filters used in when they do kidney dialysis and they're filtering things out, this is very similar to that. I'm not going to say it's the exact same thing because I don't want to disrespect Sawyer if I've got it wrong, but it's similar technology. So you can backflow and clean this thing out and with proper care, get a lot of use out of it. So, and it never hurts to have a spare. I mean, this thing is very well sealed. You can't really get into it, which is good because certain things you shouldn't really get into. But now this is something worth considering, as well as the Life Straw, and then as a last situation, having these handy, because it never hurts to have more than one option. Sure, you may have gotten something that you may not need to have, and these have, I'm looking for the expiration date on these. These things will have to be replaced at some point. I don't see an expiration on these, but there's got to be something on here. But you know what? This is why I keep this sealed, and it's still on the card that I got it from Amazon with, because that way it's very evident that this has been tampered with. It's never been used. So it's just all a process. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but especially with what the folks in Houston and that part of Texas are having to deal with, this is something that you can start today, so that if something does happen, or you don't have to be at home for these to be able to help you. These are also good if you're out and traveling. So especially if you're somebody who travels a lot for a living, the Sawyer mini filter would be ideal because it's very compact. It's not going to take all the room. You could probably, I don't think the TSA should get too upset with this, but this is something that could go in your carry-on luggage. You could always have with you. You could have, I'd say, maybe have one of the smaller bags. You wouldn't need a lot in traveling because that's be more you have to keep up with. But that's something that is worthwhile considering. And I don't mean to keep harping, but you look at all the options and start looking at some of this before it becomes necessary, because when you need it, it's too late. Let's face it, if the folks who can get around in Houston are being very challenged with getting out of their neighborhood or getting to where a store is, if the store is even open, because if the stores don't have power, they're not going to be able to ring up sales, and for their own safety, well, if there's anybody there, the doors are probably locked. But these are these are 3 options that I've shown you, in addition to the milk jugs we talked about. And over here, this is the QR code that will get you to the sign-up form where I'll send you the report. And it, depending on a variety of things, the internet, your service provider, the service that I'm going through to send this out, you might have it in a few minutes, and it might be an hour or so. But the testing I've done, it does go out fairly quick, so that's not a problem. And you've also got the URL down at the bottom, and those are all O's. They should not be zeros because of the way they're there. But you should be able to cut and paste that or use the QR code just to make it a little bit easier. Anything you do purchase is appreciated, but my main concern is to help everybody be prepared to at least some degree, because the more you can be prepared is the better you'll be able to take care of yourself and your family, or if you have pets, and that's a whole nother discussion we haven't started on yet, is taking care of pets, because they're going to be very stressed out, and the more you can have things as normal as you can for them. And this is going to be just a series of videos, and I hope to be in a position later this year to where you'll be able to see me actually take my own dog through this process, and so you can see exactly what I'm doing, because that was something that came out a lot when I was dealing with the Katrina and Rita situation years ago. Nobody had ever thought about it, how much people, and I hate to use the term value their pets, but the relationship they have. Because when I had a miniature Australian for nearly 16 years, and when I lost her, it was like losing a member of the family, because she had a personality and just had a relationship. We could almost talk, and for those of you who aren't dog people, forgive me, but for those of you who are, I think you know what I'm saying. That you have to think not only of yourself and your family, but if you're taking your pets with you, and certainly if it's a dog, most likely cats. Well, I'm not a cat person, so I can't speak to that, but I'm sure there's some people who know how to take care of that kind of situation. And that's something that is very important and should be a part of your planning. And there's things we're going to go to in coming live sessions, and I'll do some pre-recorded videos on different things so that you can see some of what you need to think about. And that's not, like I said, this is not going to be something you do overnight. This is going to be one step at a time. So just don't get overwhelmed. You've seen the different books that I have written on this, and they're all small little, I won't call them pulp fiction novels, but they're small books so you can take one topic at a time, work through that. When you're comfortable where you are, go on to the next one. And what I'm very willing to do, even if you don't buy my books, if there's enough interest, I'll start reserving some time, whether it's half hour or an hour, and I'll be glad to get on a Facebook live video like this or some other options where I can take your questions, and I'll at least tell you my experiences with it, or what I would do. I mean, if it was anything, there's always going to be a variety of opinions. But the worst thing that you can do in a situation like this is to do absolutely nothing. So every bit you do is going to be that much better prepared that you are. And it's all a process. Just going through it the first time, that will at least give you an idea of, what you have to do. But then more importantly, as you go through it in succeeding times, most of the work is already going to be done. So it's simply going to be going through and either say your aqua tablets, If they're within a month or two expiring, I'd replace them. Just go get a new one. That's things easy to do. Anything that has an expiration date on it. But in keeping your emergency bags, one of the best things that I can suggest, and whether it's the Sawyer filter or the Lifestraw, whatever you do, and then get both of them, that's up to you. Like I said, I always like having backup plans. Keep it in a dark, cool place. That way it's going to preserve its lifetime that much more. And the same thing for the water that you're going to start or may start accumulating. Have it in the basement. Have it keep somewhere where it's going to be dark and cool, because that's going to help the shelf life. As with any perishable item, the cooler you keep it, the better off that it's going to be. So, it's just a process. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't think you've got to get this all done at once. Don't stay up nights and start losing sleep. Do it a little bit at a time. And if you've got a family, do it with them. They need to understand the importance of this. And if it's little ones, they don't. We can probably figure out a way to make a game out of doing it. But for the adults, for the teenagers, they need to understand that stuff happens. And if they're better prepared, then will there be some annoyance, discomfort? Yeah, but the more they're prepared up front, the less traumatic it's going to be. And having a reliable source of water is going to be one way to do it. So if you're looking at this on Facebook, if you would click the follow button, and that way you'll get any notifications when I do go live, and when I can start to see how a schedule is going to work out. I'll be glad to send that up, because anybody who has registered for the report, where I've got all the links to buy the different things that we talked about, the Lifestraw, the Sawyer, the Aqua tablets, I'll have your email address, so I will reach out. I'll promise I'm not going to bombard you every day. I'm not going to do a gloom and doom type of email like there's some out there who do. But it's just simply I want to try to find things to help all of us get through this kind of situation, because my heart goes out to the people in Houston, and I can only begin to imagine what you're having to deal with. So know that there are those of us out here who stand with you, and we'll do what we can, because if we all help each other, folks, that's going to put us all in so much of a better place. So I've gone on long enough. Thank you for listening to me with the different options for handling water that discussed, and that is something that it's just another thing to have in your bag of tricks, so when something does happen, that you're ready to go and you're reasonably prepared. So thank you for your time, and we'll see you again on a future video. So again, if this is you're looking on Facebook, click the follow. If you're seeing this on YouTube, then click subscribe, so that you can stay up to date on anything as I come out with it. And then those who register for the special report will they'll also be hearing from me directly as well. And again, go to actually over here. I'm looking at things in reverse. So use the QR code. There's the URL at the bottom. So thank you for your time, and we'll see you again soon.